really doing this video terribly. Today we're going to do a this or that video where I get products from my collection that are same but different and let you know which one I think is worth more your money or why you would pick one over the other. Now, I am not the original creator of this idea. The first time I saw it was from the beautiful Emily from Emily's Makeup Bag, who is one of my favorite channels here on the tubes, and also Kaki Loves Beauty. She has been doing it for a really long time as well, so I'm going to link both of their channels down below. I highly recommend checking both of them out. They are truly some of my all-time favorite YouTubers. So hopefully this all sounds interesting to you. Before we get started, let's go ahead and do the YouTubey things. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It helps my channel out so much and I really appreciate it if you do. Let's get into it. Before we get stuck into the meat and potatoes of this video, if you're new around here, sometimes I whip out an accent that I don't know where it's come from, and yes, I am this annoying at all times. Maybe I'm not for you and that's okay. Anyway, this look is what I'm trying to spit out. It should already be up on my channel. If not, it is coming very soon, so stay tuned, but if it should be up, so I'll try and remember to link it down below. But I say that all the time, then I always forget. So yeah. Now I've got a tray of products here to do the this or that on. Hopefully I'm kind of on the mark with some of these and you guys are interested in it. But if you have products that you're like, what about this or that? Let me know in the comments down below, and if I have them then I can do like another episode of this and compare those products. Two products that have gone through the TikToks and gone absolutely viral and ruined it for the rest of us if we ever want to pick them up is the Rare Beauty Bronzer Stick and the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt. What is this called? Soft Sculpt Shaping Stick in Light. So I have light in both of these, and I did not realize how similar these products were until I saw Kaki Loves Beauty talk about them. I think the biggest difference between these particular products is the shade. So this one right here is the Rare Beauty and this one right here is the Makeup by Mario. Wait, I've got this wrong way around. This one right here is Makeup by Mario, this one right here is Rare Beauty. So Rare Beauty, I don't know if you can even tell, is a little bit darker and more of a true bronze tone, whereas the light shade from Makeup by Mario is slightly more cool tone, so it does give that more shaping effect to the face. The Makeup by Mario, I find I can really kind of get away with like a bronzer almost, whereas the Rare Beauty is a more true bronzer. But in terms of actual finish on the skin, these are pretty much identical. And even looking at these swatches on the back of my hand, they both have such a similar finish. It almost is like looking at the exact same brand's product, but just in different shades. So I'm not sure, I know in the US well actually I'm pretty sure worldwide like both of these products are pretty hard to find, but if you are wanting one or the other and you see them the other opposite in stock, I highly recommend trying like picking up either or, because these are both really good products. If I had to pick between them, I would pick the Makeup by Mario based off of the shade undertone for me specifically, but it is a really hard I'm doing this terribly. You're supposed to say this or that, but I recommend both of these. I think these are truly amazing, but I would pick one over the other based on, do you want that more slightly neutral undertone or do you want a more bronzer kind of formula? I do think probably the Rare Beauty is ever so slightly easier to blend out though. So, okay, let me actually think about this. What would I actually be forced to pick between? I actually think I'd pick the Rare Beauty. The Rare Beauty is just super easy to blend out. It's so fuss free. I love the packaging. I love the whole thing about I love everything about this Rare Beauty bronzer stick. I do love everything about the Makeup by Mario bronzer stick as well. But I just think this one is like if it was a race, Rare Beauty would be like ahead by like that much, like just ever so slightly, you know? I'm really doing this video terribly. I'm not telling you this or that for either of them. Anyway, a couple of other products that I do already have a dedicated comparison video on is the KVD Modcon Contour Gel versus the Charlotte Tilbury Contour Wand, Hollywood Contour Wand. These products are so similar to each other, and the reason why you would pick one over the other for these two products is probably more so shade range, because the formula itself is really quite quite similar. So this one right here is the Charlotte Tilbury, and this one is the KVD Modcon. Now these are different shades because they, like the Modcon one, you can get quite a few different shades, whereas Charlotte Tilbury only has the two, but both of them are lightweight gel formulas and perform very similar to each other on the skin. Very easy to blend out, very sheer, like just a subtle wash of color. The other product I'm going to add into the mix now is the MCO Beauty Contour Wands. Now both of these say Contour Wand. I have two shades. I have light and dark. The shade range is a little bit different here. So these are the two MCO Beauty Contour Wands right here. This is light, this is dark. I have both of them because this one actually I've just put a lot out on my hand, but this one, when applying the appropriate amount, is actually a more true contour, and this one is more of like a cream gel-like bronzer. However, the formula of all three of these particular products is super similar to each other, to the point where it's like splitting hairs. Now, the actual product that I would go for overall is the KVD Modcon Gel Contour, just because the shade range on this is so much better than this pathetic shade range of both of these products. The Modcon one really does have a shade that will most likely fit nearly everyone, and the price point is not too bad on this one. It's about 34 Australian dollars, whereas the Charlotte Tilbury Contour Wand, off the top of my head, I think is about 60 to 75 Australian. It's in that price range somewhere there. So this one's quite expensive, whereas this one is a lot more reasonable. And then these ones are normally about 30 Australian, but you can get them on special for about 14 sometimes. But the shade range on these is just so poor compared to this one that I really do recommend checking out this one. Let's move on to some powder products. Now I have the Elf Halo Glow setting powder and the Saie Airset powder. I'm not actually meaning to do these like high-end versus drugstore or anything like that either, you guys, just based on like product type and product similarities. So both of these are like a translucent type setting powder that have a glow to them, and I really, and if you know me around here, you know I am a luxury makeup hoe. I love me luxury makeup. It's where it's truly what brings me the most joy. It's just, there's a lot of makeup out there and all of it is good. Drugstore, high-end, you know, whatever. Most of it is pretty good. It's hard to make a bad makeup product these days, but just overall for me, I like to narrow down my choices. I really enjoy the luxury makeup experience. But the e.l.f. powder is gonna win by a mile in this one. So when I'm comparing this or that, I'm saying this, the e.l.f. Halo Setting Powder. Now, this is the swatches. Powder is powder, but this is the Saie Airset, and then this is the e.l.f. Halo Glow Setting Powder. They are different shades, and you can get different shades in these powders, so just keep that in mind. But both of them have the same effect, where when you dust them over the face, they're really quite a soft, glow enhancing setting powder. They're not like the Huda Beauty Glowish, where it's basically like an actual physical highlight. They really are a soft glow kind of setting powder. And I really do like both of these setting powders. I think they're both a lovely formula. Very similar to each other. But the thing is, I like the e.l.f. shades better than the Airset, because this shade is called Translucent that I have, and it's the lightest one they have, and it's pretty much too dark for my skin tone, and I'm definitely not the palest person out there. So the reason why I say the e.l.f. is I do actually like the way that e.l.f. performs better on my skin as well. It really does tend to smooth and set, like, so it smooths my texture and sets my makeup for a lot longer than the Airset. And the Airset's just ever so slightly glowier, but it's more the shade of this. I'm like, if you're paler than me, honestly, I don't even know how you would use this, because it darkens my makeup, and it says it's supposed to be translucent. But if you do want something that is more, I guess, skincare focused, because that's kind of what Saie's all about, then Saie's probably more of an option for you. But I wouldn't go past this Halo Glow Setting Powder from e.l.f., you guys. It's a great product, and these two are so same but different, and out of the two of them, I much prefer the e.l.f. Now, two concealers that I have, this is not a new one, I'm really just stealing other people's ideas here, but I just want to give you guys my thoughts. This is the ABH Magic Touch, I think it's Magic Touch Concealer. Yeah, Magic Touch Concealer versus the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate Concealer. So I have two shades in both of these. I'll just pick one shade to compare. This is shade 3, and then I've got shade Bear in the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate. I know I saw a lot of people at the time comparing these two formulas to each other, and I just kind of was really like, yeah, whatever, I bet you they're not. And then I tried them and I'm like, oh wow, these formulas are very, very, very similar to each other. So this formula right here is the Tom Ford, and this formula right here is the ABH concealer. Very, very, very similar. I think that the Tom Ford is probably a little bit more hydrating than the ABH concealer. The ABH is a little bit more, just a touch more full coverage, but not by much. I personally think that and I know that the price tag is ludicrous, so if you're going based purely off price tag, then the ABH concealer would definitely be the way to go. It's a lot more affordable. But if I'm going to talk about just pure formula and formula alone, I definitely personally prefer the Tom Ford concealer over the ABH. I just find this to be just a little bit more hydrating and smoothing on my under eyes. Provides a really good amount of coverage, great shade. I only need the one shade in the Tom Ford concealer versus I need 2 shades in the ABH because it's not quite, it's like one's too light, one's too dark. So it ends up being pretty much the same cost as the Tom Ford concealer anyway. But I just really enjoy the formula of this Tom Ford one. It's quite long wearing, and I think if you have kind of more textured under eyes and dry under eyes, you'll find the Tom Ford one to just be kind of a bit more forgiving on them. The ABH concealers are good, but I do just prefer the Tom Ford shade in Illuminate personally. Some cream blushes that I think people might assume are quite similar to each other, but is a really good example of almost same but different, and that is the Saie Dew blushes and the Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer blush. So I've seen a lot of people really not like this Tinted Moisturizer blush. I really like it, and I'm going to tell you why. I have touched on this in a video before, but I think when you see this Tinted Moisturizer blush, you kind of assume Tinted Moisturizer is going to make it a little bit more hydrating and a little bit more dewy of a finish. Whereas this is actually not the case in my experience with this blush. I find that the Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer blush actually dries down to be kind of more of a soft matte. Soft ever so slightly, probably more of a natural finish. So if you're gonna pick up, this is the Laura Mercier and this is the Saie blush, by the way. If you're gonna pick up the Laura Mercier blush formula or the Tinted Moisturizer blush formula and expect it to be very juicy and hydrating on the skin, you are gonna be quite disappointed in it. Whereas the Dew blush from Saie is kind of a bit more dewy and has that more hydrating finish to the skin versus this one. So this is where I'm going to say it depends on your skin preference and your makeup preference. If you want a more soft matte natural finish, then you want to go the Tinted Moisturizer blush from Laura Mercier. But if you want more of a dewy hydrating finish, then you want to go the Saie Dew blush. Does this make you look dry or anything like that? No, not in my experience, but I do know that some people with dry skin have found that they have, like, this has made their skin look dry. Whereas if you have super oily skin, you might not like this because it might be a little bit too dewy and hydrating. I have combination skin, and both of these blush formulas work extremely well for my skin type. I've found both of these formulas to go really well over powder as well. But I do have to admit, me personally, I truly like both of them. But I really like this Laura Mercier Tinted blush formula probably a little bit more for my combination skin type specifically. Let's talk about some eyeshadow palettes. Patrick Ta Major Dimensions 1 and 2. Great formulas, both of them. Really great formulas, both of them. In terms of, now these are super reflective, so I'm going to hold them up as best I can. Straight off the bat, pick your color preference. So if you're not someone that's going to ever wear a pinky rose tone, then you just need to forget about Major Dimensions 2, because my friend, she's a rose tone. If you just want a straight up neutral brown palette, then you need to go Major Dimensions 1, because that's, you know, that's its wheelhouse. So depending on the color preference, you want rose, you want brown, go with that. In terms of formula, the mattes on both of these palettes are pretty much exactly the same. Very good quality, very buttery, pigmented, smooth, easily blendable. Love the matte formula, truly incredible. The metallics in both of these palettes are ever so slightly different in terms of the sparkle formula in the Patrick Ta Major Dimensions 1 palette is probably just ever so slightly more, It's a little bit more sheerer, so I don't know if you can see that one there. It's a little bit more sheerer and kind of more of like a wash of color, whereas the formula from Major Dimensions 2 packs a little bit more of a punch to it and does pack a little bit more dimension to them. Both formulas in both palettes are lovely, but if you want something a little bit more vavoom on the eyes, then you want to look a little bit more towards that Major Dimensions 2, because these shadows I find do have a lot more dimension and a lot more sparkle and just that more like wham bam thank you ma'am kind of formula to them, whereas this one I find is a little bit more of a soft wash of color. It's actually what I'm wearing on the eyes today. It's very work friendly, very everyday natural type friendly. Even though these look quite like sparkly on the eye, they're actually a little bit more toned down, but I love them both. They both have a place in my collection, but I think if I had to pick this or that, I probably would actually pick Major Dimensions 2, just because I really do like the vavoom just a little bit more, and I'm a pink girl. Next up we have Pat McGrath Labs Bridgerton 1 versus Bridgerton 2. So Bridgerton 1 is the diamond of the first quarter. It has the 2 pinks, then the kind of blue special shade, versus Bridgerton 2, which is Belle of the Ball, and it has your kind of goldy shade, a mint, and a rose gold shade. So which one of these do I recommend more? I think I'm going to shock you. I know everyone is looking at this palette and saying that they wish they never picked this one up because they would prefer this one. I'm actually not in that boat. I really prefer this one. I love both of these palettes. I wear them quite a bit, and I do have a few looks using these palettes on my channel if you're interested, but I get a lot of use out of this on the everyday. The reason being is that I love the tone of this brown. It's like a really nice cool tone plum, like a plum brown, and I just find that even with the pinks, this kind of shadow can kind of neutralize the tones where it's not so overly warm and pink. But I love this shadow right here. I think this is absolutely divine, this purple. This shadow I can take or leave, whatever. This formula I love, and you know what, we all want something other than a pink in these palettes, but the formula I really love. And even though this is bright blue, tapped over the eyelids as a little bit of extra sparkle, it's not something that's not unwearable even for the everyday. So overall I get a lot more use on the everyday out of this palette versus this palette, because even though this palette is gorgeous and I love it, one, this is the exact same color as in Subversive, so I already own it. I do really like this mint shade and this rose gold shade. I really do get a lot of use out of them, but I don't reach for this much because I have the other ones. This shade I can take or leave, doesn't matter. And then this shade right here, this matte, it's just a little bit too mauvey leaning and a little bit too warm and pinkish leaning. So when I'm trying to create a look, like for example, a lot of the time when I use either of these palettes, I'll actually put a neutral shade from another palette or my bronzer tone through my crease to kind of keep out those pinks, because I don't want to wear a pink on me every single day. And I will take one of the metallics to kind of put on the lid, but I will always reach into this particular matte to deepen my crease up and create some dimension to the look. And I just find that this one goes with like pretty much any neutral tone, and it kind of keeps it that more neutral path, whereas if I use this matte, it really does turn it towards that rosy pink kind of like vibe. But overall, I just find that there's more shades in this one that I'm consistently going to get use out of than this one. Alrighty guys, I think that is all of the this or that products I have for you today. I feel like I did a terrible job and was just more like, let's just get them all. But hopefully I gave you some context around why you might pick up one product over the other, and that was helpful to you in some way, shape or form. Let me know your thoughts down below. Did you kind of agree with me in my this or that? Or if you have any questions at all, or if you have any recommendations like products you want to see kind of up against each other for the next round of this. But overall, I just hope you had a good old-fashioned makeup time with me. If you're watching till this point, you're an absolute legend. I truly appreciate you. Thank you so much. Please don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I hope you have an amazing day wherever you are in the world, and I will see you next time. Bye!